Look, he came back. I'm ready for this. David, I brought a specific heckler.
Oh, did you?
He's right here.
He's there.
He's from Michigan.
Well, he's got a John Deere hat, so he can't be so bad.
Well, listen, he said, did you hear him? Tell him what you said, David.
Oh, Lord. yeah, but he's probably got a Pioneer tattoo, though.
Yeah. All right, we're going to have a little bit of fun. David, thank you for being here. This is real casual, just kind of a Q&A. Thank you for coming and showing up. For those of you, we'll just keep saying this as you come in. Feel free to come on in the booth. If you got questions for David, we're streaming a lot of the people that follow us on social media. We'll be able to put this out for you and just kind of have a casual chat. We're going to get into a couple things. One, I want to start off, David. First question for you is I'm going to grill you on this one, okay? You ready?
Yeah.
I want to know what your favorite Chick-fil-A order is.
Well, of course, it's going to be a sweet tea, number one.
Ooh.
It depends on if it's breakfast. If it's breakfast, I'm going to want a egg and cheese muffin meal. And then I know there's some people out there want the wrap or whatever. I'm not into Mexican food. And then, of course, we want some spicy chicken for lunch now. So if you want me to come out and visit with you, walk your fields, have me a gallon of sweet tea, and that's like the first step.
Oh, boy. Okay.
What about the seasonal thing, Dave? What's your favorite dessert?
Oh, my goodness, peach shake. That is off the chain.
I have it off the chain. He says, I've seen David a peach shake for breakfast.
That's a true story. We've seen this man with a milkshake at 6:30 a.m. But David, we'll get into a little bit of it. Thank you for stopping by, man. We had Alex here yesterday, and I kind of kicked it off with the same question. And here's what everybody wants to know from you two, the current world record holders. We're sitting out here in the audience. We're live across all these things. Give us the silver bullet that we need, David, to make high yields. What is that silver bullet? There's got to be one. Other than Mutiny, we know there's got to be part of it. Give us the silver bullet, man. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, if you've been around me long enough, you know that there's really not one silver bullet, it's three. You know, the good Lord's going to bless you. You got to use Pioneer seed, and then you got to have John Deere green paint. So without those, you know you're working behind. So if you don't have those, I'll pray for you.
Oh, that's so funny. Do we have any questions? I've got some stuff. We're going to kind of moderate this. We're just going to be here for the next 25 minutes. Be respectful of David's time. This is a Q&A from the audience. This is how it's designed. Any of you that are live, if you pop something into the chat, we'll get those questions answered also. So anything to start off with? Justin's got a mic in the back. If anybody wants to start, my heckler, this is your time. This is your opportunity to really get after him. Or maybe you want to think about it. Hold on. Give him the mic. Give him the mic.
What's your record from a couple years ago?
The highest corn we've harvested been with Pioneer 14830. Got to get that behind you first. And then 623 bushel. So
if you would have planted 68, 35,
I kind of doubt it because I don't think that seed would have come out my meter.
I love it. Actually, we just met yesterday and we were having a conversation about you, David, and we've had some jokes about it. I said, tomorrow I need you to show up. He's going to be here at 11 and you're going to be the heckler.
Well, all I can tell you is just look at the scoreboard and you tell me which one you want.
Yeah! Come on, baby. Scoreboard, scoreboard, scoreboard.
You know Jake Rhodes, right?
Yeah.
So we have a mutual friend. We talk about you and Kevin all the time. And we call it our Jordan Lunch. He likes you because of Pioneer. Obviously, he's a Pioneer.
And you like Cobb because of decab.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry. All I can do is pray for you. No, I think the world of Kevin. Had a good time with him last night at the awards banquet, him and his wife and kids. So, yeah, good folks. Just think what they could be if they planted Pioneer, though.
Oh, me, thank you for that. Hey, so David, I get a question all the time, and continue to ask those in the chat. For those of you walking by, feel free to join us as we just talked with David Hula. He's been gracious with his time. Going into 2026, a lot of the conversation is, and you feel kind of a shift in the farm economy and the way that we talk about things. You know, $7 corn is not a thing anymore. $14, $15 beans is not a thing anymore. As growers, we talk about ROI, and we go into next year trying to make money on a corn crop. What are some of the considerations you're making on your own farm And what are some of the considerations that we should make as a group and across all these channels to try to make more money going into 2026? Speak to that.
Yeah, well, I know most people are kind of just concerned about the market, but if you're going into planting season trying to save yourself to prosperity with a negative attitude, what kind of result you think you're going to have? So we got to go into it positive. We got to be smart. Got to be smart thinkers about it. So several things that we're going to be looking at Renwood Farms and going to implement. We're really watching our soil levels on nutrients. So fine tuning that. And then when we're talking about seed, thinking about ways in one a grower could cut some costs. A grower is not going to see a difference between reducing populations by 1,000 or 2,000 plants. So just right off the board, drop your seeding rate. But don't forget the things that got you to where you are. The most important thing that we spend with the Total Acre team and working with the Mutiny folks, getting the plant seed, getting the planter pass right, get that seed to come up and do what you got to do to work on the planter, put the right products, MOAT, in-furrow, and with the seed, there it's just going to enhance, get that seed up uniformly. And once you do that, if the crop looks good, keep moving forward. If the crop doesn't come up uniform, it's corn. You already know how to grow regular corn. So don't be trying to push something that you're not accustomed to.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, we talk about that all the time. Everybody's trying to figure out how to do things. And when we talked to Alex earlier on soybeans, he said the common theme with you and him in the conversations is it's this Mutiny stuff and everyone else here. There's a lot of people with great products. But if this is where you're looking to start for a silver bullet, you're at the wrong place, guys. We don't have that, right, David?
Yeah.
No, nobody that even looks like us or acts like us has anything like that. It starts at the planter, and once we get that right, and once that's set right, all of the other things that we do, they start to act right. And so, anything else? Any questions out there, audience?
Tough group.
Look at these guys. Y'all showed up at a Q&A with no questions. That's crazy.
Crowd's too large.
I'm new to the farming world, so
No, you ain't.
But can you give us any tips on any soybeans? I'd love to know your secrets.
Love it.
Yeah, plant the Z beans, Pioneer Z's. So, tips on soybeans. That's not a poverty P. Come on now, we got to make something. I don't know that I'll ever even be in your shadows there, Alex, on those yields. Good golly. We're still trying to find 100 bushels, and you done double that.
So for those of you that don't know, the lady that just asked the question around soybeans is Alex Harrell's wife. And so I think she might know a little bit about how to raise soybeans and the yield potential. Maybe she doesn't. Rebecca, do you? She does. Yes, she does. She does. Yeah, she's the one that done it. Let's put her name on it.
She knows how to cash the check.
That's it. She knows how to cash a check. Anything, David? So I hear you talk all the time on your farm at Renwood. You've got these test plots that you bring. Let's talk products for a second. You bring products in. They've got to run through the ringer on your actual farm and this testing method before you get them out to production. And I've heard you challenge other growers in the past to say you need to be doing something similar on your acres to know that something pays, and probably 2026 is not the year to try something new at scale that you don't know pays. So my question for you would be, David, just production acres, how do you test things to know that it's going to pay for your particular farm, and what kind of advice would you give these guys in the room to do the same thing?
Well, as a farmer, you're never going to give up something that you know pays. So unfortunately, if you didn't do trials in 2025 or 24, where you do an application and then you leave a control where you didn't do it, so that's one thing that I get worried about, because as a grower, when things get tight, we're going to start cutting back costs. And we don't know, we might be pulling something out of the program that's really beneficial to us. And then here at the Commodity Classic at the trade show, you got all these folks selling these fairy dust, snake oils, but a lot of them do truly work. So as a guy that's wanting to try something new, go to the representative, whoever's bringing you that product, ask them a question. And if they can't answer it, then just politely let them leave the farm. But ask them outside of yield, because sometimes, how many times you make an application, try something, you get a hail event, a windstorm, you have a drought. So we really can't compare. But outside of yield, ask them, what should that product do for me? If they're saying, hey, we're going to see more nitrogen, we're going to see more phosphorus, we're going to see a bigger root system, bigger stalks, better plant health, you need something to measure. So go back and check and see how that goes. And then the other thing, Patrick, man, what we do, when something new comes on the farm, we're just going to try it on a few acres. Because I'd rather you call me, if I pulled out my phone, I'd rather you give me a call and say, David, you cost me money. Not because you did it on too many acres, it's because you didn't do it on enough acres. So that's where I would want to be. Try it on a few acres first and foremost. Unfortunately, 26, if it really works, you didn't do it on enough acres, but you're preparing a plan for 27 at least.
Hey, David, I've heard you speak to several different growers through the last few years, and I've never heard you tell somebody they're doing something wrong, but you've always said, I feel like you may have missed an opportunity.
Yeah.
And so that's a very polite way to tell somebody that they're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
But as just normal production acres, where do you feel like are the missed opportunities? Where do you see that's reoccurring?
Yeah, first and foremost, we talk about the planter and we try to get the crop up uniformly. Most of the time when we go out into the fields during the crop tour with the total acre folks and we're checking depth, a lot of guys are planting their corn let me back up. They are seeding their corn at the right depth. They know how to read a popsicle stick or a measuring tape, and it's 2 inches. But unfortunately, they're not taking into account wherever the rain is compacting that soil, and all of a sudden now they're 1.5 to 1.75 inches, sometimes 1.25 inches. So that's the first thing. Second thing, they're not spending enough time on the planter to make sure the planting process is working correctly. And that means like closing wheels, make sure your gauge wheels are set right. So let's get past that. And then we get into crop production. We are always optimistic that we're going to have a good crop. Pull tissue samples, monitor your crop. Sometimes we just got to learn to stop spending money. If we got to where we're shooting for this 300 bushel yield goal, and we don't have the plant structure, the crop emergence, some early nutrition levels there, you can't fix those problems. So now it's just corn like you've already been able to do. When you see those opportunities where fields look good, then you keep investing in it. And it is a hard conversation to me to say, man, you really screwed up. But it's also a hard conversation to say, good crop, quit spending money. But when I see something that's exciting, it's like, hey man, let's start looking at some of this and planning for the next week or next couple weeks.
Okay, David, I got one for you. So a lot of the talk over the last couple of years is there's a new biological company popping up every 3 feet at this show. In the United States of America, it's an unregulated space, meaning good luck to all of you trying to figure out who's telling you the truth, what to use, how to use it, what I should pay, when to use it. We talk about regulation, David. In some forms of life, maybe we are over-regulated. In some forms, we're under-regulated. And this would be one of them, but the difficulty is, how do you measure that? How do you even regulate that, quote, biological space? And so I want to give everybody here at the trade show, and all of us included, enough grace to say, hey, we're at the tip of the iceberg of our understanding of what this is. And there's a lot of things we thought we knew 5 years ago that might not be truths now. How do you sort through this wild, wild west of biological companies, products, etc., on your own farm, and what advice would you give those out here as we're all trying to just find out who's telling the truth, right?
Yep.
Speak to that.
Yeah. Well, I hope somebody can answer that, because I can't even answer that question. It's truly a spider web of products out there. The first thing when we talk about the biological workspace, now I was on stage with Fred Below, professor from Illinois?
University of Illinois.
Seven Wonders of the World.
Yeah.
And I was there to talk about biology, and they were talking about PGRs. I'm like, when I think about biology, I'm thinking about bugs in a jug.
Yeah.
Well, there's two workspaces in biology. You got the PGR arena, whether they're synthetic or natural. So the synthetics, like the cytokines, IBAs, and then you got the naturals like the kelps out there. And then we start getting into the, what I consider biology, the bugs in the jug, the bacillus, and then protozoa, and then some fungi, and then bacteria. So in my thought process, if I took Miss Sandy's golden retriever,
Okay. I like where this is going.
took her dog to the South Africa safari and dropped it off, how long do you think it's going to live? It's going to be a dog nugget pretty quick. It ain't going to last for so long. So we introduced new biology in their dirt. How long do you think it's going to live? I mean, nature wants to go back to a natural state. Now you got some of these companies that say, hey, we got this particular biological product that's going to give you so many pounds of free nitrogen. Well, they have to sell it to you next year too, don't they? It's not like it's one and then done. So they realize that that biology is not going to live because the natural is going to come back. What I truly want to do on our operation is feed and get more of the biology that we have, get it in balance. You mentioned regulation. Take a soil sample or tissue sample to a lab, they're self-regulated and they have a standard. We just don't have that standard in biology, so unfortunately. So once we can get that, then we can start having some measurements there. And then when you get into the PGR arena, you know, you just got to be careful. How many times as a grower, oh, if 2 quarts is good, 3.5 or 4 quarts is clearly going to be better. You can put PGR, understand what the PGRs are doing. You can screw things up early. You can screw things up late. Just for an example, we had our crop duster make applications for, I wanted them to make a spray on the same acre 14 days in a row. I wanted to learn something. We got 13 of the 14 days. I actually cost ourselves about 70 bushels. So I spent money to lose money. Is that sustainable? It's the way they do it in DC, don't they?
Listen, you said it.
I said it. But no, so we got to be careful in what we're doing. So too much is definitely not good in that workspace. So be cognizant, go slow, just like Patrick asked me earlier, how do you try new things? Try a little bit at a time, understand what it's supposed to do, and evaluate it.
Any questions out there right now that spark anything? Anybody? Y'all gonna stay a quiet Q&A section.
This is quiet.
They're here to learn, David.
Yeah.
They're just listening to
Well, they
you,
got to
man.
ask the right question.
They got to ask the right question.
Just ask a question. Yeah.
Yeah. I got plenty. Don't worry
know,
about that.
I'm not-
You and I will not run out of things
I'm
to
not
talk
worried
about,
about you
brother.
asking questions.
Yeah, you ain't worried about me.
I'm
okay.
just being worried if I can answer it.
He's done it. He's done it over and over and over. Actually, much more than anyone else that's far on the corn side. So, if you're thinking and asking, he's a big ask the right question guy. So.
I don't know. Dave's a little intimidating. I don't know if I want to ask him any questions, man. But hey, so another. Yeah, he is. He's a humble fella. Another hot topic kind of in the ag industry, if you could help us sort through, David, I'd like to get your opinion on, is the use of humics and fulvic acids. You know, if it dry, liquid, I hear people say, well, I've got a 24% humic acid, and I've got a 4%, and I've got a 12%, and this one costs $20, but it's more concentrated, and this one costs $3, and it doesn't have this and all that. There's just a lot of noise around that, and we, over and over and over, we get questions from growers around the country asking us, why should I use humics? Does David use humics? Speak a little bit about what you found from the technology,
Yep.
how you implement it on your own farm, and how you would, what your advice would be to these guys if they're just now kind of getting into that space, because I believe it's here to stay.
Yeah, we can also, we can't really put the humics into that workspace of biology, but where we put that humic and fulvic acids in that workspace, gives it a place for the biology to survive and feeds it. For example, Renwood Farms, we're putting humic acid with all their fertilizers. Whether it's dry or liquid, we'll get our nutrient, I don't know if there's any nutrient guys, but they mix up our fertilizer for us, and we're gonna turn our fertilizer black. So humic, whether it's going in the Soil Warrior in the strip till machine, or we're putting it in with our starter. And then, we don't want to do anything like heavy salt loads in the trench, but we're still adding humic acids with their seed. So we're putting it out really in 3 places: strip till with the Soil Warrior, in-furrow, and then with their starter. And the functions are there is to buffer salts. A lot of times, anybody ever use 1034O out there? All right, I see some heads now.
Yeah, they do.
Nobody's going to raise their hands. I get it.
They're nervous.
Yeah. So, but would you take that 1034 and go spray your crop? No, you wouldn't. Why? Because it would burn it. Well, let's think about the roots the same way. We don't want to be putting heavy salts with the chance of burning some of those fine root hairs. So let's buffer those salts as much as we can. So humic acids. Now, what product is the best? That's a tough one to answer.
Yeah.
We're still learning. I'm still learning on that. And then more importantly, we're still trying to figure out rates.
Yeah.
We're looking at 5%, 10%, and then maybe some 20%. We've been doing trials, we're doing tests, and we're trying to understand how is it buffering the salts. Because one of the ways I first learned about it was one of my seed guys, because we're in the seed business, sprayed his wheat crop. He used some nitrogen, some 24003. And I sprayed their wheat crop the same day, and we were using just sugar to mitigate burn. But I go inspect his wheat. I'm like, how come did you not top dress your wheat like we talked about? He said, oh yeah, 0 burn. I'm like, holy smoke, what'd you do? He said, well, I put some of this product that had some humic acid in it. So I'm like, we got to learn from each other too. So we started implementing that. So whenever we're doing anything on the dirt, we're going to add humic acid. And if you're doing, you can get the granular stuff that looks like fertilizer, you can get the powder stuff. Just be careful because flowability and depending on how you're applying it. Now, whenever you're adding any micronutrients to the crop, in season, or we're looking at maybe spraying some herbicide and we try to buffer some effect of there, I'm adding fulvic acid. Now all humic's got fulvic, not all fulvic's got humic, but we're trying to buffer that salt index, and also the fulvic acts as a kind of like a cheap chelator. It's small, it helps get the nutrient into the leaf. Because how many times have y'all looked at a corn leaf? I see the NutriScan folks there. How many times do you look at a corn leaf? Do you see jaws on it? It's not chewing anything. So we got to help it get into the crop. So when we're checking that, fulvic acids, man, it's like, all right, gets right through the stomates, helps it get into the tissue on the top. So if I'm making a $5, $10, $15 application for micronutrients, do you want it in the plant or do you want it to hit the ground? If you're foliar doing it, you want it in the tissue. So how can we best influence that? Fulvic acid is the easy way to have that happen, man.
Yes.
Do you use fulvic acid on soil or mainly for foliar? You kind of answered.
The question, we'll repeat that. Question from the chat was, do you use fulvic acid foliar or just in the soil, David?
Yeah, most of the time because the fulvic acid costs a little bit more. That's a foliar play. Humic, think of humic for huma. So humic goes on the dirt, and then fulvic for a smiley face. You want that on top.
Yes, sir.
The companies come out with varieties so often. Are you doing variety trials every year? It's hard, some dry, some wet. So how long are you evaluating before you'll grow on?
Repeat that question, David.
Yeah, so the question is in reference to corn hybrids. They change over so fast. How in the world can we keep up? Because years ago, a hybrid would be around 6, 7, 10 years. What's happening this year? Henry Wallace is celebrating his 100th anniversary with Pioneer. They've been around 100 years. How many different hybrids do you think they've had? So as a grower, when we're thinking about hybrids, you got to have a good relationship with your seed provider. So have some trust there, whether it's a DeKalb guy or a Pioneer guy, have some kind of trust. And then we also do trials. Every field that we plant, except when we're doing high yield stuff, our planters split with 2 hybrids or maybe 3 hybrids. So we'll get a new hybrid, we'll try it on a few acres, and then if we like it, based on maybe some trial data we've seen from previous years, you only get it 3 years and then they're starting to wean it out. So if you like it 1 year, then you start putting it on more acres, but you really need to try it on as many acres as you can in a strip trial, because soils change, conditions change. So first, have the relationship with your provider, look at data, and then second, do some in-field experimentation, and then go prosper and go forth. I just did a podcast, a little clip. If Pioneer is the one to beat, Pioneer is the one to plant.
Look, keep coming right back at you. I told you this would be a good thing. We're going to get a picture afterwards to send to your group chat also. This is going to be great.
Oh, we're good.
This is going to be great. Hey, David, so a lot of conversation over the last couple of years around tissue testing. I'd like to move into tissue testing if that's okay with you. There's been questions even from some of those in the audience I know that I've had the last couple of days around tissue testing. Hey, how accurate is it? You know, if it's sunny, if it's wet, if it's this, and you know, I'm pulling 1 or 2 tissue tests throughout the year, and then I make a response right after that tissue test, but I saw no difference in yield. Speak to a little bit of how we can tissue test to understand nutrients in the plant and help us make more money on the farm, and how you do it at your place.
Yeah, we've been doing tissue sample for decades now, and we've gotten to where, you know, one of the cool things I like to do is on Monday morning when I'm at home, I'll pull tissue samples first thing Monday morning. I'll take them, either ship them to the UPS store or take them to the UPS store, ship them down into Georgia, or take them to the lab. And the reason I like to do it is because when I head back to the farm, I can stop at Chick-fil-A and get my breakfast. So personally, that's what I like to do. And then after that, we get the data, we get the results. We've been doing it for so long, you know, we have a data set, but now there are groups out there, you know, like Total Acres one that has their groups where we can now associate tissue levels with yield. You know, not many companies can claim that. They usually say you're low, medium, or high.
Yeah.
We can say you're on target for X amount of bushels. So now, how do we turn that into production? So for me, the first time I'm judging my crop is when we're at that 300 and just prior to 350 GDUs. The crop is now starting to photosynthesize. It's at V3. We'll pull a tissue sample, and I then know, is it corn worth pursuing, or is it just regular corn? So we look at some levels there, and that gives me an indication. Now, you don't have to be the guy that has to pull tissue samples every week. There's enough data out there. You need to pull it at specific times. So, for example, more often than not, when I see folks' tissue samples, they're low on manganese, they're low on boron. If they're even doing a moly sample, they're probably low on that. These are things that you can fix in season quickly, but then when we're low on phosphorus or we're low on potash, they're much harder because they're macronutrients. The plant needs pounds of that. You can't fix some of that in season, but there's a lot of these other ones that you can. Nitrogen, you know, we realize you got to have X amount of nitrogen in the tissue to sustain a particular yield goal, whether it's corn or soybeans and small grain. You know, we need that. So use those as targets, and then you can make in-season applications. You package them with those fulvic acids to make it safe, and then if you want to be in that biological arena, then you can start either PGRs or some of the biological products out there. But it is just a tool. You can have great success with tissue levels and still not get the yield you coveted. Because we've heard about this, I can't say it off my tongue, but the law of the minimum. There's a weak link somewhere. And sometimes tissue or fertility might not be it. Could be you picked the wrong hybrid, could have an insect. How many of y'all had southern rust last year? There's a fair amount of folks had southern rust. That would have been a great chance to say, hey, we got the southern rust, we're gonna make an application. Oh, by the way, we're gonna throw in another product in there like maybe some moly or some boron or some kind of nutrition. It would have been a great learning curve. Unfortunately, most growers didn't even spray. Didn't even make this application.
Hey, David, so recently you and Alex took a trip to Brazil maybe a month or 2 ago and saw a bunch of stuff down there. Got Alex to talk a little bit about that yesterday. Do you mind? I just think it's helpful for the international landscape of corn and soybeans, wheat, kind of just to understand that global scope. Could you speak to your trip to Brazil and just give us a little bit about what you saw and what you learned down there?
I thought this was supposed to be an upbeat conversation.
Listen, man, you can take it wherever you want.
Well, first and foremost, going out there, we were in the San Paulo area, so the middle part. The farmers there were larger farmers, and they were farming in the Mato Grosso area too. But we just kind of went there. And one quick little story, one of the farmers said, what is a successful farmer in the United States? I'm like, that's a relatively good question. I'm like, all right, they're either, when they die, they'll be debt-free because they got a good life insurance policy, or they're managing their debt load. He's like, what do they drive equipment-wise? I said, usually updated equipment, kind of nice. And then the next question was, well, what do they do for fun? I said they either have like a lake house, or in the wintertime, they go down to the somewhere warm here in Texas or Arizona, or on the East Coast, they'll go to Florida. And then the next question was, what do they drive personally? I'm like, where's this going? I don't know. And I'm like, all right, so SUV of some sort, maybe a Suburban or something. So then it was my turn to turn the question around. It's like, what's a successful farmer in Brazil? Debt-free, a house at the ocean, owns a jet, not a little plane, but owns a jet. And I'm like, okay, what do you drive? A full-size Dodge pickup.
Dodge pickup.
And I just laughed. He's like, why are you laughing? I said, because every farm we picked up, they were driving Dodge pickups. I said, but I have no interest to come there. All right, so a successful farmer has a house at the beach, owns a jet. We are this close to being insignificant. I mean, when Alex and I were there, we're looking at a soybean field. Most of the growers here are going to manage the crop till maturity. They're stopping. They're at R2, R3, and they're done. Y'all would make probably at least one more spray, the audience in here. All the soybean plants that we saw, I never saw more than 3 pods per node. How many pods on most of y'all's nodes? I know the total acre guys is going to be
More than
5,
3.
6, 4 to 6, 7, and 8. So you take just a couple of little things. They don't use PGRs. They're superior with us in biologicals from the foo juice, but PGRs, they do not play with those from the growers we visited with. So we're that close, but we do have an advantage because they don't have an infrastructure. One of the growers we were with, he said he gets his freight from corn is 1,200 miles. So 2 loads a week. But then also I heard that same grower the other day, 2 weeks ago, they were harvesting 240 combines, 150 planters.
Gosh.
They're figuring 32 to 40,000 acres a day. So these are large operations. But they have struggles too. I hadn't been to a place that doesn't have a struggle. They're learning, they're going to gain. The difference, we're thinking, all right, 2026 is tough. I'm old enough, I remember the 80s. The difference between the 80s and today, interest rates are cheaper. But to me, the biggest difference is we are not the global leader anymore. They raise more corn and soybeans than we do. I'm not too concerned about it because we have, our dollar, we have good infrastructure. We have superior quality. We just got to be bigger users of what we grow ourselves here. So Brazil's kind of neat. Never on my bucket list, but I was there. I don't need to go back. I'm sure not going back to teach them how to do more. I don't need that kind of bullseye. I got a big enough bullseye. My knees are getting a little weak carrying a lot, heavy loads.
Thank you, David. Any questions from the audience? I got one more, and then we're going to let him go. If not, yes, sir. JC, you mind getting him a mic right quick, please? Will you repeat that, David?
Yeah, I couldn't have said that any better. Being a total acre member, we've been, we talk about tissue sampling once a week. Now we don't say you got to do it once a week, but you do need to be tissue sampling. There are times you can positively influence the tissue by an application, but more importantly to me, as a grower that's just starting it, allow that to be a learning curve, a database. And a lot of times, when you fix it in season, you're not going to see the result that you're coveting. But what you're doing, that tissue sampling, is creating a platform how you're going to manage your nutrition in the next season or following seasons. Because if we find out that you've been low in a particular nutrient, we'll just say zinc, for example. We can make some zinc applications and fix some of the tissue levels, but it doesn't turn into the bushels that we coveted. But then we can start adding some zinc sulfates, which is clearly a lot cheaper than some of the foliars. Mm-hmm. We do that in the fall, in the strip till, or early spring before planting, in the start or in furrow. Sometimes we can do those type of applications, And then we've created a better platform, a base foundation for the crop. Potash, phosphates, magnesium, and then we get into calcium. So we start thinking about lime, and then when we start thinking about other nutrient, manganese, and then iron, copper, just the whole gamut there. It is a strategy. Y'all want a silver bullet, I get it. You want me to tell you what to put in that John Deere inductor to give you bushels. I can tell you those things, but it might not work, and it might not be economical for you. But there are things, and I remember thinking back when we get to yield ceilings. We were stuck at a yield of 340, 50 bushels. Not a bad place to be stuck at, but I'm too competitive, I want to do better. We just made an application of a micronutrient at like V4, and then all of a sudden we picked up 27 bushels. So that was a silver bullet. Some of y'all, that would not work because you got other things that have held you back. So finding where your ceiling is and punching through it, but you're absolutely right. Tissue samples help you maybe fix some problems in season, but really they're used to fix a problem and plan for next year. Because let's say you pull a soil sample. It says you're high in, or the lab says you're high in all nutrients, and then you pull a tissue sample and says you're deficient. I don't care what's in the dirt. I do want certain levels in the dirt, but if my plant can't pick it up, then we have a disconnect there. So we got to fill that gap, and that's where the tissue samples come into play so you know what you got to focus on.
Okay, last one, David. We're going to get you out of here. This thing ain't free, so I got to pay some bills, brother. You ready? Mutiny Crop Performance is behind us. I'm one of the founders of the company. We are very gracious enough. We're thankful we do get to work with David. He's used some of our products in the past. He's helped us find some others. We really value his opinion as we build out our product lineup. He will be quick to tell us that is not good. Don't send that to me again, right? Conversely, hey, that actually is pretty good. You should take a deeper look at that. And so we're very, very fortunate to build relationships with him, and Alex is sitting on the front row here and get those guys' opinions on stuff. David, the guys in the room, the folks listening on this here, give me 1 to 2 products of that Mutiny carries that you have had success with on your operation. And we know yield limiting factors, like, we don't have to get too far into the weeds, but just 1 to 2 that someone should take a look at that you use.
Yeah, well, before I do that, I know when y'all first started going on, I feel like it's been a partnership between Mutiny and, Patrick and Justin. That truly has been a pretty cool watching how that's all transpired. For me, when I start thinking about things that, hey, it's going to be on our dirt, the MOAT y'all got, in-furrow, to me, there is nothing better.
What is MOAT for those that don't?
MOAT has kind of got that humic acid. It's got the kelp in there. It's got some zinc. It's got some PGPs. Not plant growth regulators, but plant growth promoters. So we're looking at the biological arena, workspace there. And what it does is going to help the crop to come up. It's not going to take, if you plant your seed at different depths, it's going to make it come up uniformly. But it's going to do all those seeds at the same depth. It's going to come up uniformly. And I'm a guy that doesn't like to put phosphorus in the trench, but I'm a guy that knows the value of phosphorus. And having that zinc in there and the kelp and some of the other attributes in the MOAT is going to give you that high phosphorus level that you're coveting. And then we start talking the riding dirt, the humic acids, and then the K-bloom with iron.
Yeah.
I mean, you got the K-bloom with iron. I like the K-bloom by itself, but I know iron makes the plant green because it's helping on the photosynthesis. So those are some of the things. And outside of that, they're like standard SOP, standard operating procedures for us.
Perfect.
So.
Any other questions? We're going to let Mr. David go. He may stick around. He's got to get a picture with you for the group chat. But other than that, for those of you that have met David, he won't bite. He's just the absolute best. I think it's really, really cool that the highest yielding corn farmer in the history of the world would just take the time for a little bitty company like us, we're absolute nobody. So David, we're a humble man whenever we can spend time with you. Thank you for your mentorship. Just want to say that publicly out loud, man. And just a gracious, humble yield giant. So man, thank you for imparting wisdom and information and knowledge. You don't have to do that. I'm not paying him to sit here right now, guys. So thank you for those of us digitally online and across all of our social media platforms. Those of us standing here, man, we sure appreciate your time today. So thank you. Let's give David a round of applause, guys.
Thank you.
All righty. Thank you guys for coming.